The following program is sponsored by The Greek, Ely's Radio Shack dealer at 570 Altman in downtown Ely, and brought to you as a public service by Georgetown Media in Ely, Nevada. Ely City Council meeting, March 23rd, 2023.
Join me in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Lord, thank you for bringing us together. Help us to remember those that we serve, particularly those most in need, and guide us to deliberations that will be just and fair and hopefully useful. We ask your assistance in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ. Amen. Amen. Father, Son,
We'll have the roll call.
Mayor Robertson.
Present.
Councilman Trask.
Here.
Councilman Carson.
Here.
Councilwoman Elliott. Here. Councilman Allward.
Present.
Councilwoman Williams-Harper.
Present.
City Clerk Lee. Here. City Treasurer HR Director Trask. Here. City Attorney Cahoon.
Here.
Public Works Supervisor Craig Craft.
Here.
City Fire Chief Stork.
Here.
City Engineer Alberg. Here. City Police Chief Henroy.
Here.
City Building Official Peterson.
Here.
And that is all.
Okay. With that, we will open for public comment. Please, please state your name for the record. You'll have 3 minutes, and please be advised that the first public comment is just for items pertaining to issues on the agenda. The final public comment will be open for any discussion whatsoever.
Third HR 1417 Mill Street. I have your new business item 3, Ice Plant Park exhibit. First, I'd like to commend the city for providing an exhibit for those of us in attendance to review and become informed on your plans for a tiny home community on Belfort Avenue. Speculation, surprise, confusion, and frustration are certainly reduced from the equation when plans are provided in advance of a public meeting and information is made readily available to the surrounding residents in the city of Ely. Such was not the case last week at the RPC meeting when the zoning changed for the now 100 imminent apartments to be located on Great Basin Boulevard and Bell Avenue. Upon close of that public hearing, the maybe what-if concept was provided to the RPC. It was smoke and mirrors and coyote the way this was handled and presented. And I'm the first to admit we desperately need housing in this community, however it needs to be affordable housing. That said, I hope your tiny home project will either rent or be available for purchase for a reasonable cost associated with the project. The proposed $2,000 a month for a 1-bedroom and even more for a 2-bedroom is absolute insanity for this community. With the lack of additional amenities such as a grocery store, clothing stores, newer schools, any additional housing will continue to fail the residents of the city of Ely. I would respectfully request you also consider the effects of adding all these additional housing resources to include the impact that will be placed on already understaffed departments in this community. Will developers be required to pay impact fees for the water, sewer, landfill, police, and fire protection? You can't expect to add 100 apartments and 7 tiny homes and not overload our departments who are already over capacity. And finally, will the residents of your tiny home project be subject to the fines for their pet defecating in Ice Plant Park, should the owner fail to clean up behind them? Because 5D stated on the record they're going to DNA test pet droppings left behind and fine their residents of their apartment. That's laughable. Speaking with another landlord at the RPC, I informed him of the proposed cost of the response received was, I should raise my tenants' rent. This is the exact effect this is going to have on unscrupulous landlords in our community. Because if you can offer a cheaper alternative, no matter what the condition, it's a better bargain. So while given the housing crisis we are facing in Ely currently, it seems like a good idea. However, if the history teaches us anything, the 17th Street project with JCR and Caleb Summerall's Park Avenue projects is the desperation for new housing, and repeated poor decisions aren't going to continue to serve our community well. So please consider my suggestions. Thank you.
Thank you. Other public comment?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, on your agenda item 7B3, the city has no business competing against the private sector. There's plenty of land available. Let me remind you, the county sold 13 lots for $100 or $7.70 a lot for so-called affordable housing. 2 lots have sold to date with new houses built. They both cost over $400,000. I have properties that I can't use because you refuse to give me a permit. Again, NRS restricts the city from competing against the private sector. You need to stop the discrimination. Mr. Mayor, on your agenda item 7B4, you're considered budgeting a lift station for $240,000. Where will that be located? Are you replacing one or are you adding one? If it is, excuse me, if it is for out of city limits development, then you appear to be assisting a private venture which NRS does not allow. Developers have an obligation to put infrastructure for their projects, not the taxpayer. The project or the listing on the agenda is not complete. Also on your item near the end, I could not find 125 Mill Street. Where's that at? You got me on the agenda, but I can't find it. City Hall is a 501. You go up the street, you go to Sixes. Is it on the corner by chance? You need to be specific, Mr. Mayor. That's all I have at this time, and I'd like some answers. I'm tired of waiting.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Yes.
Joe Waller, speaking as a private citizen, avid outdoorsman. Just make a couple comments on the agenda item dealing with R Plus Energy. First of all, it's no secret that I'm opposed to the project. Of the 12 projects they show on our little map, none of them are using groundwater. They're all coming from rivers or lakes. So this is a big experiment that could go south. They're going to drill a hole, a diameter, 20-foot diameter, down and into the mountain. As big as Yucca Mountain, basically. We haven't heard from these folks for over 3 months. So here it comes out on this report now, which over in Duck Creek Basin, there was not going to be no access road up to the mountain. Here it is, their own words. A new alternative upper reservoir access road is being considered, which would utilize approximately 3.5 mile long permanent dual lane paved roadway that would connect the proposed upper reservoir to the White Pine County Road 29. Duck Creek is junk. Your elk are leaving, your birds are leaving, only people up there are the animals, they're gone. It's a proven fact when the state highway put out there on the Pioche Highway, wildlife viewing area, the elk left. They don't like pressure. So now they're going to pave a paved road up there. Anybody that goes to Duck Creek needs to understand this. All of a sudden it's boom. I think they've got a lot of things in front of the whole process. They haven't even got the whole figured out they can drill that far. They couldn't even drill into the side of the hill to start with. They ran into problems. They're here they are going in front of the Federal Regulatory Energy Commission. They're way ahead of the game. People got to be made aware of this, not none of this backdoor stuff. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Either here or on Zoom? Hearing and seeing none, we'll move on to item 3. Mayor discussion for possible action, approval of agenda, including removal of agenda items. I will entertain a motion on this item.
I'll move to approve.
Motion from Councilman Carson. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second from Councilwoman Elliott. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing so ordered. Item 4, City Department reports. Fire Chief.
Nothing to report, unless you have any questions.
Questions for the Fire Chief? Police Chief.
Nothing there, thank you.
Thank you. Municipal Court Judge. You have his report. I don't believe he's on tonight. City Attorney.
Nothing to report.
City Clerk.
No report.
City Treasurer. City Public Works Supervisor.
Any questions?
Okay. City Water Operator, City Engineer.
I guess the big thing that kept us busy this last week is we did our earmark applications with Board Group. Timeline kind of got pushed up, and so we kind of scrambled last week, but we did get all of those in. So we got both applications in for the House and also the applications in for the Senate. So John and everybody back at the office, they did a great job of getting all that stuff compiled. Jennifer for all her assistance in doing that as well. Those are kind of the major things. We also come back and work with Mike, Public Works Director, and try to come up with a game plan of how they want to attack these streets. And we know these streets are just they're in rough shape through the winter, and they're going to continue to decline as the spring gets closer to us. And so we're trying to come up with a plan that we can do the best that we can and try to keep up with it as best we can. So, any questions for me?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, BJ. City Building Official.
Good evening. Just wanted to report, we had an incident last year where emergency services had a little trouble getting somebody because of an address that just didn't quite seem right. In my travels around the last year or so, I've identified a number of properties that are more than 2 blocks away from where they should be. In particular, the numbered streets in East Ely. I've got one street that goes up in numbers and then down in numbers. I also have 2 separate 400 blocks of Morrison Avenue. So my intent is to kind of compile a list of all the addresses that really need to be changed to inform the owners of those properties well in advance of the address change and then effectuate that address change when the time comes. I just wanted to make everybody aware of it. I assume torches and pitchforks will be out when people get that letter from me. So more of just a heads up.
Thanks for the heads up.
Thank you.
Mayor?
Yes.
I'm sorry. I'd like Patty to read the following into the record. It's just a city street repair
Sure.
plan.
City street repair and maintenance plan, spring 2023. During the fall and winter of 2022 and 23, Ely has received significant snow and unwavering cold temperatures, as those who live here know. The beginning of spring weather shows little sign of moisture letting up, though the warming temperatures and longer days have resulted in the melting off of snow and ice-packed city streets. The issue at hand is more readily apparent is significant potholes on many streets. With this in mind, the filling and fixing of these potholes is necessary, even if it is only temporary patches, especially on the most used roads leading to important city locations such as the hospital and the schools. Other well-used routes and/or streets that have large holes shall also be prioritized by the city crews that did such a good job in keeping the roads open during this challenging weather. They well know where the worst potholes are on the main thoroughfares through town, such as Murray, Mill, etc. Since temporary fixes in these weather patterns is not a common practice, a variety of methods shall be utilized in repairing them and then tracking the repairs to determine which methods are most effective. In addition to the potholes, some streets are in need of repairs beyond pothole patches. On Avenue K, adjacent to Steptoe Park, the westbound lane is essentially mud at this point. Putting type 2 base onto that section will at least firm it up and make it usable until permanent repair work can be done. Murray Street, where the most current sewer line work was performed, but the repaving of the street is not occurring until the summer of 2023, is also in need of milling being added to the road base that is currently there. 14th Street and other roads around the hospital have significant potholes and shall take priority over other roads in the community. The pothole repair and patching shall involve a thorough cleaning out of the potholes and adequate compaction. It is understood that these are only temporary repairs. The benefits will be immediate relief for citizens from some major problematic pothole streets, and also give the city crews a head start on knowing where and what future fixes this summer will be necessary. This is the current plan for addressing the winter damage to the city streets. It will evolve as work progresses and updates will be provided. This report provided by Mike Craycraft, Public Works Supervisor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I think that's done with city department reports, unless there's anything else to add or questions. We'll move on to item 5, reports from the city council. We'll start with
You
council.
do your mayor's report?
Well, I'm on item 5 now. You guys are first, then.
Oh, okay.
So we'll start with Councilwoman Williams-Arnold.
I would just like to say that I enjoyed very much being in Carson City, actually twice in the last 10 days. But it was really good to be able to have some good literate discourse with the governor. I felt like he was really listening to what's going on in the rural counties. I learned a lot. It was good to hear mayors and other city council folks from other places. So that was time and energy well spent, and I was able to do that with Samantha Elliott and the mayor, and I was just very proud to be a council member and be recognized and be heard. So thank you for that opportunity and experience.
Councilman Hall.
I attended the RPC meeting, which Ms. Pinner was talking about. It was quite an interesting discussion. A lot of the discussion, it was getting heated, and it's my belief if the property owners would have presented their drawings at the beginning of the meeting, it wouldn't have been so volatile. So we have to keep the public informed. Don't post surprises on them, and that's what was going on there, in my opinion. Thank you.
Councilwoman Elliott.
I think Jerry Lynn said it best, but we were in Carson on Monday and we had a really good time.
Councilman Carson.
No report.
Councilman Carson. You have my permit report there. The items that we did discuss with the governor were continued support for 2 of our major state infrastructure projects, those being the Main Street project and also the Cave Lake Dam, 2 projects that are really critical to our community for the state to complete. We also discussed our continued support and lobbying for SB 186 regarding our museums, and then we talked about professional licensing, principally teachers and contractors, and how the state could possibly help with making that a more streamlined process to be able to fill some of these critical vacancies in our community. Those were the main things discussed there. It was a good trip, and I appreciate the sacrifice and the time that our council members took and do that as well. So, let's see. Oh gosh. Not a word, Kurt. There we go. All right. So we'll move on to items. Not quite item 6. We'll move on to item 7. Items for discussion, possible action only of the Ely City Council. The consent agenda, we have minutes from February 23rd and bills from March 10th. If there are no questions or concerns there.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a disclosure. I was a past member of the fire department, and there are some bills paid on behalf of the fire department and the volunteers, and I believe I can vote in the best interest of the city.
I'll also disclose that my husband's a member of the volunteer fire department organization, but he doesn't get treated any more differently than anybody else, and I don't know anything else. With that, I will entertain a motion for the minutes and bills.
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Motion from Councilwoman Elliott, second from Councilman Allard. Any further discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Carried as ordered. Since we are still about 10 minutes out from our 5:30 hearing, we'll go on to item B1. Item 1, we are up to discussion only, state of the city address. I'm pleased to be here tonight to present some of the successes of our community over the past year and also some of the challenges that we will be having on the horizon. Last year when I gave this report, I had 3 years to cover. The benefit of giving this report on a more regular basis is that the report gets shorter. So positives all around. February of last year when I gave this report, we were just coming out of COVID. We were looking at how our city could progress past the pandemic of the previous 2 years As stated in last year's State of the City, our employees were a very large part of our community's success in getting through the pandemic. Not only did they run critical infrastructure, they also helped administer grants and assistance programs to our local businesses and a myriad of other critical functions, most of them well and above the normal call of duty. In the past year, pandemic or no, our employees are still the critical parts that keep the city machinery running. They are out late dealing with service disruptions no matter the weather. They respond to emergencies and accidents not just in our city, but all over a 20,000 some odd square mile area of the state of Nevada. They battle elements and snowplows. They are in the office, come rain or shine, to make sure the business of city government gets taken care of. There isn't an accomplishment I'm going to discuss tonight that doesn't have a host of city staff working hard past quitting time to make sure that these endeavors are a success. I'm also pleased to acknowledge the City Council's part in recognizing the good work of the city's employees as they saw fit to raise employee wages across the board this past year by 10%. This was needed in light of rampant inflation, but was also a well-deserved recognition for our employees' constant dedication and a consistent job well done. The city has not only been able to increase wages this past year, but has managed to keep a healthy fund balance in the process. Last year, our ending fund balance was around $1 million, the best it has been in some time. This year, even excluding government assistance funds that have come into the city, our ending fund balance is estimated to remain at around $1 million. This may change some as we address infrastructure needs coming out of winter, but we will be well above the $500,000 minimum that the council instructed that we keep in the general fund. The city was also able to pay off 2 loans related to the fire station and fire equipment. These loans were paid off ahead of schedule, saving taxpayer money on interest payments. The careful management by city staff and the watchful oversight by the city council has provided for the progress of the city organization while keeping the finances in a very healthy state. In connection with that, I am thrilled to report that the city's lobbying efforts and cooperation with our congressional delegations are paying dividends. The city of Ely has been awarded 2 community project fund projects from the federal government. This is the first earmark funding ever received by the city of Ely. These 2 awards, totaling over $5 million, will address upgrades to our aging sewer system in central Ely and water system upgrades in East Ely. This means that for every $1 the city has invested in our lobbying efforts, we have been able to secure roughly a further $50 in outside spending. This is on top of grants completed by city staff from the CDBG program for the continuing water, sewer, and street replacement on Murray Street. A further $7 million in grant funds have been secured for the development and upgrade of Broadbent Park and its amenities. This project is one we hope to start design work on probably 2 years from now, depending on how Congress and the BLM move. Outside grant money has also been employed on preparing plans to renovate our historic city hall. For every $1 the city has spent on this project over the past 10 years, we have been able to match that with $5 in grant funds. Realizing that local tax dollars for projects like these could not be raised from citizens, it has been critical to invest our limited resources in securing funding from sources outside of our community. We are grateful for the continued support from our state and federal representatives in securing these funds for these critical community projects. While the financials are looking well, I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge our record-breaking snowfall this winter and the toll it has taken on our community. The amount of overtime our crews have put in dealing with the weather this year has been as astronomical as their efforts have been Herculean. The number of city residents who have sent in their sincere thanks for our road crew's diligent efforts speak to the high quality of work they've been doing. If that is where the story ended, we could declare it a resounding success. Unfortunately, Mother Nature has had other plans for our streets. The relentless amount of moisture and constant freeze-thaw cycle has left many of our roads in terrible shape. Almost 4 years ago, I ran on the platform of more planning and fewer potholes. I am more committed to that sentiment now than ever. Just as careful planning has allowed the city to keep its finances in good order and leverage those funds to secure the outside funding needed to complete critical projects, careful planning now will allow our limited resources to go as far as possible in addressing the mess left by this past winter. Please know that city crews are patching when and where they can, but much of this work will only be able to take place after the snow stops and the weather warms. In the meantime, our staff is planning and budgeting and collecting resources to address the streets as soon as Mother Nature allows. I trust them in their abilities, and our community should too. This next year holds many exciting events and opportunities for the city of Ely. I would again like to thank our city council for their forward-thinking engagement and attention to detail. I feel fortunate to be serving with community members of such a high caliber. Their diverse points of view and varied backgrounds generate rich discussion and creative solutions to the problems they are routinely faced with. I am also deeply appreciative of the other community organizations that the city regularly gets to work with. We appreciate our partnerships with White Pine County, as well as the diligent work put in by White Pine County Jordan Rec, the White Pine County Chamber of Commerce, and White Pine Main Street. We are grateful for the community service of the White Pine Ministerial Association, the Boys and Girls Club, and all of the other service groups and organizations in our community. There are too many to list, but we absolutely could not do all the work we do in our community without these organizations and their many dedicated volunteers. In the past 116 years, Nevada's sixth oldest city has come a long way, and we still have a long way to go. But I'm confident that we are moving in the right direction, and I'm ever grateful for the support of our citizens and proud of our community. Thank you. That was so short, we still need to make it to 45. We've got plenty of other things to do. Thank you. We'll move on to item 2. Mayor Robertson, R+ Hydro representative, discussion only, presentation regarding White Pine Pump Storage Project's application for a license for a major unconstructed project with the Federal Energy Regulation Commission, or FERC. Great.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, City Council. Appreciate the opportunity to be here today. I'm glad that the weather was finally able to cooperate enough for us to be able to make a drive. We've been watching it every day this week. I also want to introduce Jessica Brooks, who's with me today. She's working with me now, and I'm extremely grateful that she has agreed to join us at R+, and Michael Couch, who's our local rep. The project has had some certain milestones, and that's really the reason we reached out today to try and provide an update on a number of things. This next slide is, the only thing I want to mention on this is this disclaimer is that there's information in here that's subject to change, and it's based on some forward assumptions. That's enough of that. Table of contents of what we want to cover today is the energy goals and interconnection, project overview, project progress highlights, what we've been doing and work we've had in consultation with the National Park Service, the FERC licensing process, what water and water sourcing looks like, and looking ahead, what are the activities and what kind of things are we planning for. As I think we have mentioned before, Nevada law requires 50% renewable energy by 2030 and 100% carbon-free by 2050. This requirement was added to the state constitution, and the project will be instrumental in being able to meet those goals by renewable energy sources. The federal energy policy goals require the Department of Interior to permit 25 gigawatts of renewable energy by 2025. The Nevada the BLM office, state office, has land use planning goals for renewable energy that support this requirement for the entire country. A significant amount of energy storage will be required to facilitate both energy objectives. Right now, there is a lot of effort in trying to achieve storage through strictly in battery storage options. This is going to be incremental at best. This project has the large-scale ability to provide the kind of storage that's necessary to meet those goals. The interconnection support for this project is needed in this area primarily because White Pine County is a centerpiece for interconnection transmission that's occurring both east and west and within Nevada. The upper right map that you see there is a display of the planned and under construction sections of the Greenlink project from Nevada Energy. You can see where Robinson Summit is in the upper right-hand corner, ties directly into the grid. That loop system provides for reliability and allows for the northern and southern sections of Nevada to be tied together. The project actually manages and is able to provide non-dispatchable renewable resources and provide grid stabilization. It turns the variable and intermittent solar and wind energy sources into a dispatchable energy source. In a lot of cases, now we see those dispatchable sources coming from cogen natural gas plants that either have a capacity for spinning reserve or from other sources. This project has the inertia and reactive power for grid stabilization, and it's increasingly important for fossil fuel generation as it's retired. The project is approximately $2.8 billion capital